Hi there, I'm Jim Bradley. I write a blog called Under the Castor Oil Tree. And I think I say from time to time, if you don't understand the name of the blog, go read the book of Jonah, and it will all be clear to you. Um, I have some posts to share with you this week. Uh, some of them are celebratory because of our new administration. But if you don't agree with me about we should celebrate that, maybe you might not want to watch the last couple. The first one is called Anawalt. Anawalt is the town I grew up in. I've discovered a treasure trove of videos on YouTube about McDowell County, West Virginia. I watched 7 or 8 of them before feeling tears I didn't know I was crying on my cheeks. If you are from there, you say McDowell. If you aren't, you say McDowell. I grew up there decades ago. It was a very different place than it is now. When I was a child, the population of the far-flung county was 100,000 or so, and coal was king. My father and his 3 brothers were among the few men I knew who didn't work in the mines. My father did before World War II, but after he served, he didn't go back. Uncle Russell ran a grocery store and a dry goods store. That's what we called the department store in Anawalt. Uncle Dale owned an Esso station before it became Exxon. Uncle Sid lived 30 miles away and was an insurance agent. After the war, my dad ran a bar until he had to draw a gun on a friend who was drunk. Then he worked for Uncle Russell. Then he drove a dry cleaning truck. Then he was the only insurance agent in Anawalt. Anawalt had a population of 500 or so, with about 40% Black and only 2 Italian families. I just looked up Anawalt on Wikipedia and found out that the 2019 estimated census was 179 instead of 500, which almost matches the county's drop from 100,000 when I was a kid to about 27,000 today. Coal is no longer king. Mines that are still open, the very few of them, have machines that do the work of 100 men. The county of my birth and my life until I went to college is a shadow of its former self. I have such joyous memories, but if I went back to visit, I would be devastated. I'll hang on to the memories and not go visit. This is a post I posted on January the 18th, which was Martin Luther King Day. And it's a sermon about Martin Luther King I preached in 2007. And unfortunately, the 14 years since then have not moved us much forward. The sermon is called Cana and King. Listen to the promise of God from today's reading from the prophet Isaiah. You shall no longer be termed forsaken, but you shall be called, my delight is in her. The Lord delights in you. There's a lack of something here. That's a saying I remember from my childhood. I don't know if it's a regionalism or just something people in my family would say, but I grew up hearing the term a lack. My grandmother would ask me to taste something she was cooking and say, Jimmy, tell me, does this have a lack of salt? My Uncle Dal would ask me, who was the auto mechanic, would listen to a car motor that wasn't running smoothly and say, there's a lack of something here. My Uncle Russell, who ran the grocery store, would look over the receipts from the delivery of meat or canned goods and say, we've got a lack of 2 boxes of green beans. A lack is something missing, not there, needed, required. Having a lack meant something had to be done. Corrections must be made. Action must be taken. So at the wedding in Cana, a small town in the hills above Nazareth, Mary comes to Jesus and says to him, Jesus, there's a lack of wine. Do something about it. When the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King looked around at the society he was living in, he realized there was a lack of freedom, a lack of equality, a lack of justice. Dr. King realized someone had to do something to supply what was lacking, to provide freedom and justice and equality where there was a lack of it. The thing I love about the story from John of Jesus' first miracle is how terribly human Jesus' initial reaction was to the lack of wine. Trying to recognize and define who Jesus was consumed the first 4 centuries of Christian history. That argument revolved around trying to determine how to balance the human nature and the divine nature of Jesus. There's a fancy name for the conversation about the identity of Jesus. Theologians call it Christology. And the struggle with Christology goes on even today. Was he God? Was he a human being? What is the nature of Jesus' identity? More often than not, it seems to me, we tend to come down on the side of divinity and shortchange the humanity of Jesus. But in today's gospel story, Jesus' human nature is writ large in capital letters. When Mary tells him there's a lack of wine, he reacts in the way most every son sometimes reacts to his mother, with petulance and impatience. Why are you bothering me about this, Mom? He says. Can't you just leave me alone with my friends? Then, in my imagination, Mary gave Jesus one of those withering looks only a mother can give a son. Just that look. Then she walks away. Jesus must have shrugged his also human shoulders and rolled his also human eyes, taken a deep breath and said, okay, let's make some wine. The human side of Jesus shows itself clearly here, because like all of us human beings, when a lack is pointed out, we want someone else to handle it. We don't want to be bothered. It's too much work and will take too much commitment and energy. And sometimes trying to fill a lack is dangerous. It was no different with Jesus. And it was certainly no different with Martin Luther King. Dr. King was a successful clergyman. He had a family to worry about. He had his own life to lead. So when he realized there was a lack of freedom and justice and equality, he initially resisted the work God had given him to do. He agonized over it, prayed that the cup might pass him by, tried to avoid getting involved, and waiting for someone else to act, to step into the breach, to be the leader, to take on the task of turning the water of injustice into the wine of freedom. And that is what I admire most about the life of Martin Luther King, that he was so terribly human, filled with all the anxiety and reluctance we are all filled with. And yet God would not leave him alone. He stepped into the midst of a crusade for freedom that would cost him his life. It was this simple how it happened. A woman named Rosa Parks refused to sit in the back of a bus in Montgomery, Alabama, where King was a pastor. It was like Rosa Parks said to Dr. King, just as Mary said to Jesus, there's a lack here, Martin. And the rest is history. However, any celebration of the courage and astonishing work of Dr. King's must stop short of unbridled jubilation. The work he began is not over. The lack he sought to meet is far from fulfilled. African Americans still do not share equality, the freedom, the wealth, the abundance of our country. Neither do Hispanics and Latinos. Neither do women of whatever race or ethnicity. Neither do gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transgender people. Neither do disabled Americans. And many people and children go hungry each day. There are so many in our midst that are still called forsaken. There are many for whom freedom and equality and justice is still just a dream. And that dream, the dream of Martin Luther King, can only be fulfilled through the courage and commitment of human beings. It is the humanity of Christ and the humanity of Dr. King that can inspire us to dream dreams and to give ourselves to make those dreams realities. Like Dr. King, I have a dream of the promise of God for all people. You shall no longer be termed forsaken, but you will be called, my delight is in her, for the Lord delights in you. This next one is called Breathe. Nothing calms you down like paying attention to breathing. Long, deep breaths held for a few moments and released slowly. Exhale. Breathing is a central part of most meditation techniques. Today, I can breathe. I watched the Biden-Harris inauguration most of the morning. Only 2 weeks since mobs of people stormed the Capitol and tried to stop the count of the Electoral College votes and hang Mike Pence. The scene was so much different on the steps of the Capitol today. And I can breathe again. The whole world can. The nightmare of the last 4 years is over. We can have peaceful, restful sleep tonight. Climate change, the pandemic, immigration reform, racism and inequality, and many other ignored issues will be addressed very differently now. So join me. Breathe, breathe, breathe. This one was posted on the same day, late that night. It's called Normal. I've listened to NPR and watched CNN, MSNBC, and even Fox News. And the word I've heard most about this day is normal. The ceremonies, the press conferences, the speeches, the music, the comments. And the word I heard today is this: normal. Biden and Harris have brought back normal to our land. And the best thing the former president did recently was not show up for any of it. That, if nothing else, brought normalcy back. I love normal. I love quiet. I love boring even. And it's all back. Thank the good Lord. Normal is what we all need, what we have longed for years. And it's back. Take a deep breath and breathe out saying, normal. Isn't that good? This is from Wednesday of last week. It's called One Nation Under God. If it stopped there, we'd be in big trouble. But it continues with this: one nation under God, with liberty and justice for all. No matter what you think, we are not a Christian nation. We have Jews and Muslims and Sikhs and Buddhists and Hindus and agnostics and atheists. And we have liberty and justice in this country. Get over it, evangelicals. We are people of many faiths. We need to acknowledge that and move on. Religion is one of the things that divides us. We really need to realize how diverse we are as a people and proclaim liberty and justice for all, over and over and over. I love living in a diverse country, and I believe with all my soul in liberty and justice for all of us. This is called I Am an Episcopalian. I've been emailing back and forth with my son, who is a member of the Episcopal Cathedral in Baltimore, about how hard it is to bear the name Christian when so many so-called Christians supported the former president, even up to and including the seditious attack on the U.S. Capitol on the Feast of the Epiphany. Wise men who were of other faiths came on Epiphany to worship the toddler Jesus and give him gifts. Not so wise men and women on the celebration of that day came to desecrate the symbol of our democracy and called themselves Christian. We Episcopalians need to make clear that we are not Christians like the evangelicals who support Trump or the Christians who stormed the Capitol. Obviously not those shouting, "Hang Mike Pence," or Christians, but some were. It's hard to be called a Christian with no distinction about which Christians we are. I'm an Anglican Christian who believes the vote was, as many in past administrations said, the most valid vote ever. I am an Anglican Christian who supports democracy and the rule of law and equal treatment for all people and the end to voter suppression. I'm an Anglican Christian who wants racism stamped out, poverty defeated, and all people welcomed into this country. Well, that welcomed all of us except Native Americans when we came from different lands. That's the Christianity I'm called to, not the Christianity that continues to support discrimination and sedition. Here I stand. Stand with me. One last one, and it's it's one of those things that bothers me, and I don't know what to do about it. Why are women viewed differently? Besides Bernie Sanders, God love him, and his mittens, no one seemed to comment on any man's dressing at the inauguration. Lots of folks in the media and online are obsessing about what Kamala and Michelle and Jill wore, but no press on the men. Listen, clothes are clothes. All of us put them on every day and take them off every night. Get over it, America. Clothes are just clothes. I'm Jim Bradley. Thanks for being with me for this. I hope to see you again and bring you more of my whimsical wisdom. And wash your hands, wear a mask, stay socially distanced, get a vaccine as soon as you can. Be well and stay well, my friends. Amen. Bye-bye.